Hey everyone, this is the Mike Gormley Show, and I'm Mike Gormley. Uh, Very pleased to have a special guest today, Stephen Kravit, who is Executive Vice President, Legal Affairs for the Gersh Agency, which is a huge
Business and legal affairs.
business and legal affairs. Got it. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Yes. Yes.
But you've been in that end of the film industry for a long time, basically film industry, right?
Film and television, yes.
Yeah. I'm going to assume that although you may be retired, you're keeping tabs of what's going on, and just what's going on with Hollywood in general. What's your observation of where it stands now, where it may be going?
Well, it's going into a dramatic change as the theater business is slowly but surely being squeezed out completely by the streaming business, for which there's a much larger immediate audience and overall different methods of compensation. But we'll have to see, because the theater business did survive television, and it did survive cable, HBO. This one, though, seems to have it a bit on the rocks. But I'm very hopeful for it because the theater business the theatrical experience is just better than any other experience for feature films.
The COVID shutdown is, I think, a big factor in different from the other situations. I mean, people just stopped, everything closed for a couple of years, and getting into a habit while at home all the time, and then getting back into a habit of going out again is tough to overcome, I would think.
Yes, that is true. Definitely a problem. And it's just something we're going to have to see how it all plays out.
Mm-hmm.
The factor, also another big factor, is that for the great bulk of the feature and television business, Hollywood was the center of production, the main area, and certainly the United States. New York had a big play. And today, it's a worldwide production situation where there are great crews and financial incentives to working overseas. And I don't know if that will ever be reduced in such a way that production can come back to California the way it used to be. We're all concerned about that.
Yeah, and it's as we record this, President Trump has talked about a tariff on foreign films coming in. I'm not sure if that's in writing yet, but you think that's going to actually happen, and if so, have what kind of? It sounds like it might have a good effect for Hollywood, but not necessarily for viewers. But what are your thoughts on that one?
I think I'm not sure that that's a good way of doing it, because there are certain films that will never come to the United States. The Bond films will never shoot. Well, you never know. The Bond films are now no longer held by Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson. So they're owned by MGM. So I don't know if those would shoot in the United States, but previously they wouldn't. I think it's if the federal government were to give financial incentives to studios, production entities to produce local in the United States, that I think would be more effective than tariffs. I don't think anybody's looking for. I don't even think the studio owners or any of the production entities in America are looking for tariffs to come into play.
Right. It's a bit of a downer of the whole situation. You know, the film industry was such a fun industry, at least for the public, and now they've shifted around, and I don't know, maybe it's just got to settle down a little bit before we can get whatever normal is going to be. I guess it's going to take a while.
Yes, there's no question about that. I mean, when I first got into this business, all those many years ago, it was a very comfortable small business where basically everyone knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And if you lost your job, unless it was because you were sleeping with the boss's wife or something like that, or committed a serious crime, you were circulated to another company to take you on in a basically similar position at a similar income. And today that doesn't happen. If you lose your job, you fall off the edge of the world.
It's now you were in business and legal affairs.
Yes.
Background is law, right? Lawyer.
Correct.
It's here we are talking about a fun industry.
Yes.
Not meant to be detrimental, but business and legal affairs can be pretty dry. It's as you know, you're negotiating contracts and so on and so forth. I guess the question is, being in that industry, did you have some fun along the way?
It was fun, a lot of fun along the way, because the people in it were generally very nice. And that continued. I mean, the people that are in it, who I would run into, well, afterwards, and even my later years, were all nice to deal with. It's just that they were so fresh and they didn't know the history of the business. They didn't know a lot of why things were the way they were, and which made life a little bit more difficult, a little more dry, but the people themselves were all really nice. It wasn't the same, however, like if I saw them on the street, I wouldn't necessarily know who they were.
Yeah. I know how you feel. My background's in the music industry. I know how you feel. It's much the same. It's just different people and different approach to getting things done. How does that affect, like we talk about the music industry, and like songwriters are having a very rough time making any money. What about the artists, the actors, or even directors and so on, the artistic side of it? Are they okay? Are they going to be okay? I know you can't predict the future.
Well, the actors, the directors, all the talent that used to live on their residuals as they got older.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are no more residuals. They were all bought out at day one. At the first paychecks are buying out your residuals. And that's sort of frightening for the average artist, because there's no way to make that up as you get older and dropped out of sight by the hiring personnel.
Well, that's similar to the songwriters I mentioned. They were living off as songs got played and made use of along the way. They were getting royalties, and now they're not. And they're just not. I mean, somebody has a song that may be a classic and it's used a lot, and it's under the old, let's say, regime maybe. But as it stands now, it's pathetic. I don't quite know. Nobody seems to know, but the writers keep writing, and the actors that you're talking about keep acting and training, and there's new ones coming in. I mean, from that aspect, it's staying alive, right?
Correct. It's staying alive, but they have to make sure they're putting aside they have to set aside their own retirement plans.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever they had by way of residuals, they're just not going to see them. They're just gone. So that's
Why did that end? That was in negotiations at some point?
well, what happened was the studios discovered a provision in the guild agreements that allowed them to prepay residuals. Something that was not done for, I would say, the first 40 years or 35 years, anyhow, that I was in this business. And once they discovered that, they started to make use of it in small amounts and then in large amounts, to the point where they didn't care how much they were paying you up front. They were increasing upfront payments, but but through those upfront payments, they were effectively buying out, and specifically buying out
Mm-hmm.
by contract the residual payments.
Interesting. Well, we're coming up to a commercial now, and we'll pop up for a bit. We'll pick it up when we get back. It's the Mike Gormley Show. Our guest is Stephen Kravitz, a veteran of the film world and wars. We'll talk about some of that when we come back. Thanks, everybody.